So clearly I don't have a... This is all wrong.
Look how short I am.
I know. She's very short. Oh, have you got my what's for your needles yet? 1, 2. You filming?
Yeah.
Good. Have you got the castle?
There's
You
a
can't
lobster.
have it.
Look. Oh, lobster attack. But I was distracted by the Wensleydale sheep that's right there.
Not a dipper. A wagtail. Only a complete fool. Under the sea.
Under the sea. Is that going to show on the... That's a different film.
Keep filming.
I am, because look, I've got the sheep. Hello.
Oh, where did that go? Oh, tell me, did you go in and drink? Welcome to episode 52. Is it 52?
I believe so.
Yeah, you see, I was panicking about this before. And of course, it's favourite places to knit. And where are we? We are at Bolton Castle in Richmondshire. And this was the home of the Scroops.
And the Scroops, didn't we speak about them on the picnic?
We absolutely did. The Baker Bears picnic, which came out a few weeks ago, we focused very much in on the Scroops, but today's not about that family. If you want to learn all about the Scroops, I think we covered it in great detail on the Baker Bears picnic. Today is all about Bolton Castle, but also about one of their extra special visitors. Bolton Castle was built around 1378 by the first Baron Scroop of Bolton. The Baron was head of a family who had arrived 300 years before from Normandy and had become one of the most important in England. He had just been awarded his first baronial seat by King Richard II and he needed a castle to govern his lands from, so he built this. About a perfect example of a quadrangle castle that you will find in England. This approach to castle building is really interesting because it signals the end of castles being built for defence and ones that are constructed for their greatness as domestic houses. And you can see that from these beautiful gardens which we'll be exploring later. It's a stunning place to visit.
So Dan, what makes this beautiful castle in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales so important?
I will tell you that this is a castle of national importance because this sort of lay in the middle of one of the worst decisions that Elizabeth I had to make. That's our first great Elizabeth the Queen. Of course, you love Elizabeth II, don't you?
I do.
Yes, and it's just been her birthday.
Yes.
We watched it, we had a picnic, didn't we?
We did.
And you made lovely, your favourite new sandwiches.
Oh, my favourite new sandwiches.
What are they?
It's chopped up egg mixed with a bit of salad cream and cress.
Nice.
I want one now.
Yeah. Well, This castle lay at the middle of a terrible decision that Elizabeth I had to make, and it was all about her cousin. Do you know who her cousin was? Mary, Queen of Scots. In 1568, Mary found herself here on Carberry Hill in Scotland, defeated in the field of battle by her own Scottish barons. If she stayed in Scotland, she would most probably be put to death. Should she return to France, where she'd previously been queen, or does she turn to her cousin for support? Mary felt sure family would support her in her plight, and she quickly got over the border into England and turned to Queen Elizabeth I, her cousin.
But Elizabeth was head of the newly established Church of England, and Mary was a devout Catholic. Whilst she cared deeply for her cousin, Mary arriving in England was a direct threat to her rule and would lead her to a tragic decision.
So this is the story of Mary and Elizabeth, the two great queens of the Tudor age. Whilst we're here at Bolton Castle,
I am delighted to be here at Kenilworth exploring one of Queen Elizabeth's favourite castles.
"200 miles south of Bolton Castle lies Kenilworth Castle. Construction began in 1120 and it was built by the Lord Chamberlain to Henry I. He was the father of the Plantagenets, if you remember, who we covered in the first of our series on the founding fathers of Great Britain. As we approach the castle with the lovely Zena, we're walking on a causeway that acted initially as a dam for a lake. As the age of the knight in armour arrived, this causeway became a jousting arena. In his younger years, Henry VIII was a keen jouster and most certainly would have ridden here. The tower on the left is the gallery tower. You can just see it just behind there. We're going to get a better view of it in just a moment. There it is. Now this guarded the entrance to the castle but also acted as a gallery for the jousting competition. Imagine which great medieval ladies would have stood here watching their knights in armour below jousting. Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn most certainly, given Henry VIII's love of this palace. This is a palace, a castle, as important as any within England. By 1570 though, Kenilworth was owned by the 38-year-old Robert Dudley. Now this guy was as dashing as they come. He was a brave knight and a noble statesman, but Robert had a problem. He was desperately in love with a woman who would not love him publicly in return. Robert Dudley and Elizabeth Tudor grew up together at the court of Henry VIII. They were great friends as children, and as they became adults, their friendship turned to love. In 1559, the year Elizabeth would become queen, it was evident to all she loved her Robert dearly. But this was a time when marriages were arranged and you rarely had the luxury of marrying for love. As the new Queen Elizabeth, she now had a team of advisors recommending the right course of action for the first Queen of England. Marrying was not on the cards, but that did not stop Robert and Elizabeth loving each other dearly. Robert now sat in his seat at Kenilworth, and he began great renovations. Renovations so grand because he was expecting a visit from Elizabeth herself. She would come and spend time with Robert on many occasions, and he wanted to make sure that the castle reflected the majesty and the reverence with which he held his beloved Elizabeth. So he started spending money, and he spent a lot of money. He wanted to create a seriously impressive site for Elizabeth to come and enjoy. And you know, this was a time very much as now, where as a royal, those private moments were difficult to get. And as we'll discover, she perhaps spent a little bit more time with Robert than she should have done. This is the great tower that's leading out into what is probably the most famous part of Kenilworth Castle. These are the gardens which were restored only a few years ago now by English Heritage to an attempt at their former glory, as Robert prepared for a famous visit from Elizabeth. And look at that. It's utterly stunning, isn't it? And you know, you can only imagine what a sight this must have been. It's a sight for us now, but back then, this type of beauty was very rare.
Elizabeth first visited Kenilworth in 1572. Robert Dudley spent the equivalent of millions on his castle in readiness, and Elizabeth loved it. Over the coming 3 years, she stayed here many times, One visit lasted 19 days, a very risky strategy for the Virgin Queen, fraternising with an unmarried lord in his own castle.
This was the crown in the jewels created by Robert Dudley for this special visit in 1575. It's now called the Elizabethan Garden, and it was recreated on the basis of archaeological evidence and really detailed accounts by a visitor at those festivities, and at that visit a man called Robert Langham. All the flowering plants used are known to have been popular in Elizabeth's day. There's carnations, pinks, stocks and wallflowers, and the focal points of the knots are small trees and shrubs, which are bay, holly, juniper, viburnum and rose. At the centre of the garden is a spectacular fountain in Carrara marble, created on the basis of Langham's description. And on the northernmost side of the garden, which we're going to see in just a moment, is an aviary, again constructed after Langham's detailed description.
Elizabeth consistently turned to her Robert throughout her life, and we can be sure on her many visits here that she would have discussed what to do with her cousin.
Mary Queen of Scots was born on the 8th of December 1542, and the reason why she was related to Elizabeth was her grandmother was Henry VIII's sister. So that's what meant it was cousin. Is it first removed? I think that is. Now, the story of her birth is particularly tragic because supposedly her dad, on hearing that she was born and that she was a girl, he fell into a deep depression and he died 8 days later. And the history books sometimes blame it on the birth of Mary, but actually he'd just been in battle, he'd drunk some infected water, and he died from that. But that's the reason why people drank beer then.
Yes.
Yeah, because the water 9 times out of 10 was sat and stagnant and was particularly dangerous, so people drank beer, and the rich people of course drank wine. Mary's father's death meant that she had become Queen of Scotland at just 6 days old. Now, she arrived into a politically challenging world ruled by men. She was for a time committed to Henry VIII's own son, Edward. She was only 6 months old when this treaty was signed in 1543, but by Christmas of the same year it lay in tatters. The people of Scotland feared for the safety of their queen, so they turned to France for help. She was taken to France, where she was brought up in the French court, and she was engaged to marry the future King Francis II. Now, Mary was eloquent and especially tall by 16th century standards at 5'11", while the future King Francis had a stutter and was abnormally short. They must have made quite the pair. When Elizabeth I became queen in 1558, many Catholics saw her as illegitimate, the most powerful of which was Mary's father-in-law, King Henry II of France. He immediately declared Mary the new Queen of England and his son Francis King of England. This was of course done to cause trouble and stir up the Catholic barons within England. The King of France's machinations came to nothing. Mary did not become Queen of England, but Elizabeth never forgot these actions, and whilst Mary was only 15 and not responsible for her father-in-law's actions, she would end up paying the ultimate price. When we come back, we'll discover the events that led Elizabeth to place her cousin under house arrest in England. We'll discover her bedroom, which she used for 6 months after she arrived, after fleeing from Scotland across the Solway Firth. And of course, we'll explore a little bit of the gardens and look a little bit more at the history of Bolton Castle, until we reach the conclusion of Mary's tragic story. Hello!
I don't know if you were going to say anything there.
I did. Wasn't that exciting? A new presenter for favourite places to knit. Yes, wasn't that great? And I loved it how on her first clip, you could see she was a little bit nervous, but then on her second clip, and I'm delighted to be here, she'd settled into it.
I loved it, Zena, and I loved the top you were wearing.
I thought she looked great.
Yes.
I said to Kay actually when I was reviewing the footage, that's the type of ensemble I would see you in as well.
Oh, right.
Yes. It just the business. And how exciting. And this is just a taste of things to come by doing this. we can cover stories in a much greater depth.
Yes.
Yes.
Because it's in areas where we can't access easily.
Yes. Not when, on a morning, I need to go to the toilet 5 times. Travelling becomes slightly difficult. So, Zena, thank you so much.
Thank you, lovely Zena. We loved it.
And then there was the bit as well, so me and Bryony found it when we were doing the editing, where this fly flew straight across the screen and you could see its wings flapping. It's amazing.
And she had a fly issue on her latest podcast.
Did she?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's the same fly. Maybe it's a co-host.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Zena. Did it like travel home with you in the car?
I once did a show called Viva Mexico, right?
Oh, that sounds fun.
And it really wasn't. The first thing is, it was in a theatre where I pulled up at the theatre and I'm telling you, I thought it was a shed. I thought, this can't be right. It's I won't say where it is.
Oh, it wasn't the one beginning with B, was it?
No.
Oh, right, that I've been to, because that was like a shed.
Oh, that's awful. I will tell you where that is. That is Billingham Forum. That's the only theatre.
That was an experience.
Seriously, that is the only theatre which I used to go to where I used to be scared in my walk from the car park to the theatre. It is in the rough part of Billingham. And if you know Billingham, to know that there's a rough part is a scary concept.
Yeah.
And Kay came to see
Sound of Music.
And whilst the leading lady was dancing to Edelweiss, her dress was coming
falling off. It was literally falling off.
It changes the concept of the song Edelweiss. And every time she span around,
you could see it was completely fallen off at the back.
Oh dear.
It was so funny because I was like in the front row, Dan was in the pit, obviously playing the drums, and I was in the front row, and you couldn't really see, could you? And I kept looking at you, and you could see that probably, a lot of the audience were like sniggering. I was like, oh gosh.
I was just getting a flash every so often, and I don't mean that in the way it sounds.
No, it wasn't rude or anything like that, but it was just
the back.
funny. It was just funny.
It's just the back of the dress.
Yeah.
No, this was another of my theatrical triumphs. Yes, Viva Mexico, and the reason why I brought this up was, within that show, one of the concepts is, and I don't know, I'd love to know if any of you have seen it or been in it. That would be amazing, because I was obviously in a musical family, and I'd never even heard of this show. And
I've never heard of it.
Well, one of the things in the show was there was this whole scene, right, where this guy had this travelling flea circus.
Oh gosh, right.
And there was, I can't even remember, I think it was me, it was. I had to do a thing on the Swanee whistle for when the flea was flying around, and obviously there was no flea. It was totally stupid.
Gosh. This
was the show as well, where the leading man had to sing La Cucaracha, and he had a lisp, so he was going La Cucaracha, La Cucaracha. And on one of the nights, I kid you not, he walked on stage. They had not secured the trapdoor. He put his foot on the trapdoor and disappeared.
You see
Luckily,
that so many times, don't you? That could be really dangerous.
Well, luckily they're sprung.
Right.
So it just went. So he just disappeared slowly. The look on his face was a dream. And in the same run, one of the dancing girls, and when I say girls, she was extremely experienced. This lady was in her 70s.
Oh, right.
She did a very, very good job. They had her dressed up, in those Mexican type bikinis with the skirts.
Oh, no,
Yeah, well, she fell off the stage.
Oh,
she did something bad to her leg. The paramedics came in and took her out.
No.
The show carried on. At no point did we stop.
Got to love amateur dramatics, haven't you?
Yes.
The world to itself.
But the beauty of it was, I was actually getting paid for that gig.
Well, yeah.
So granted, the theatre might have been a little bit rough, but they were still paying the musicians, which was very kind of them.
And it was full. I remember it being full when we went to Sound of Music.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I mean, Billingham Forum was always a relatively... I don't think there's a lot of sort of culture in Billingham. I think we need to talk about the hardest job in the world.
Do we?
Yes. Do you know what that is, Kay?
I do.
What is it?
You're going to say being a parent, aren't you?
She is correct. We're not going to... We won't dwell on the ins and outs of it, but...
We're dealing with an issue at the moment, and...
I need... It's the first time in my life where I feel like I need therapy.
Oh no, it's so... Isn't it difficult? And this is... I think it's so difficult for us because, and I'm sure you gathered from the way we speak about Bryony, she's an incredibly good girl, you know, and this is the first time ever, and she's going on 11, she'll be 11 in October, that we've ever had an issue like this, and it's completely peer pressure.
And as well, I was just thinking, when I was on the way home in the car from dropping her off at school, I was just thinking, as well, a couple of things went through my head. The first thing was, I need to start remembering some of the training that I had when I was a teacher.
Yeah.
And remembering the fact that at this age, they do start testing boundaries. And it's part of learning and growing up. And I get that. But the other thing, and this was the hardest thing, and this was the thing that upset me the most, and I don't know what you think about this, Kay, is that we're not here. I worry that I've spent too much time being her friend.
Yeah.
And not enough time being her dad.
And but I think that happens because we've not had to discipline her. We haven't had to do any of these things, have we, up until this point? Because she's so easygoing, and she's so lovely to be around, and she's just, you know, she never has caused us a moment of any sort of problems, has she, up until this point? And this is not a big thing. We're not talking about a huge thing at all. It's something small, but it's something that has just continued, and she's kind of started to fib about it, and
that's the bit that really upsets me.
Yeah, it's not what she's doing, it's the fact that she's covering up. And thinking that that's okay to do.
And I also feel as well, and I don't like this feeling, and I'm sure all of you out there who've experienced parenting will have maybe had this feeling as well, and that is that perhaps you're being made to look a bit of a fool by, or she thinks that, you know, she's clever and she can get away with stuff, and that we're idiots.
And that,
because we're not.
Well, no, we're not,
But it's just look. Let's summarise it by saying it's rubbish.
It's rubbish.
But hopefully, the outcome will be something that we are, you know, very glad that we got through. This stage.
And I do think this is it's a difficult age, especially for girls around this age, you know, because I think in a way more things happened to a girl, obviously, around, you know, 11, 12 than a boy. And, you know, I think as a consequence of that, there's more things to deal with, and it's, you know, it's a difficult thing. You know, as women, we all know we went through that, and you want to do it in the right way so that none of it is a stress. And
beautifully dealt with that, by the way, Kay.
It's not just that area. There's lots of other things going on, isn't there? Obviously, and she's got to that age. You know, she's a tall girl. I think she's possibly maturing a little bit earlier than her peers are, and maybe that's part of it as well. You know.
Do you know what I think we need? Do you know what I really think we need? Because I know I would get a lot of benefit from this. I think we should have a Bakery Bears parental support group in the Ravelry group. Should I set that up?
Yeah.
Could we share support for each other and?
Yeah, and it's.
Let me know if you think that's a good idea.
You see, for me, I kind of think back to how I was dealt with at that age, and I find this really difficult because I was brought up in an era where things really weren't spoken of.
But I don't understand this, Kay, because I was brought up only 4 years after you were brought up.
You're a boy, though.
But things were spoken about.
Well, I think it's possibly, in my family, and to this day, things are just not spoken of and not dealt with, you know, before things happen. And therefore, when it comes kind of your turn to deal with something, I've got no...
I think in my family, things were spoken of too often.
Well, I think it is kind of like that, isn't it? You kind of...
But that's a good thing.
You have either a very open family, where things are discussed openly, or, you know, you're brought up in a family where it's the complete opposite, and we were polar opposites, you know?
I remember being asked some questions you don't want to be asked by
No, but I think that's a better way to be.
It is. So would I.
And that's the way that we are. That we're tackling it. We're very open, and we will discuss anything and talk about anything. And do it in a way where it's a normal thing. And
I went through,
because it is a normal thing, obviously, but it's just one of those areas growing up and around these sorts of ages where
I went through a big fib telling age, and maybe it was around the same age as Bryony, but I wasn't trying to cover up things because I was so scared of repercussions, because I had 2 elder brothers and I'd seen what had happened to them when they'd been naughty. I was never really disciplined. I used to fib to try and impress.
Well, that could be. I don't know what's going on, because she doesn't really talk about it and won't tell us really what's at the root of it, which is really frustrating, because like I said, we've always been very open and anyway, I'm sure it will resolve itself one way or the other.
I know what we all need to relax.
Yes.
And it's not knitting.
What is it?
It's a bit of football.
Oh.
We're only going to touch on this for a second. The European Championships are going on at the moment, and that's all really great. I don't want anyone to think that we are not interested and supportive of our national teams in things, because of course we are.
Yeah.
It's just football we can't stand. Cricket, you always enjoy a bit of cricket.
I do. I love cricket. I love tennis.
I love watching cricket.
The tennis is just coming up, isn't it? Wimbledon soon, and I really enjoy watching that. Like I said, I really enjoy watching the cricket. Quite like the Olympics. We're always watching that, aren't we? And cheering on for England and everything. But there's something about football.
It's a very Route 1 game, isn't it? There's not a lot to it.
It isn't. I even like rugby. I quite like watching the rugby, don't I?
There's a lot more to rugby than there is to football. I love American football, and I'm extremely envious. I think we both are extremely envious of the tradition that surrounds American football. If that was here, in whether it be in football or cricket or any of the, or rugby, but it just isn't. No. There isn't that tradition of getting behind your local team and supporting it. And if there was, if Bryony was, cheerleading or whatever, we'd be there. We'd be supporting it. We would love that. Yeah. We're always, aren't we, encouraging? What's she doing today? She's doing extreme golf.
Extreme golf she's doing after school today, and she really wanted to do that, and that's great. But
I know that Kay got asked earlier, I can't remember when it was, but she got asked if we were watching the football. We aren't, and that's not because we're miserable. We love the cricket, we love the rugby, we love many sports. We, as Kay said, we watch the Olympics and all that. Yeah. But football is not our cup of tea.
No,
if it were different here, and if, like we said, there was a great tradition in it, we'd absolutely buy into that. But there isn't, so we're not into it. Look,
on that note,
he's here at last.
Who?
He's arrived.
Has he?
Yes.
Who's that?
Francisco in his summer hat.
Has he?
Can you hear the music? And he wants to ask you a question, Kay.
Does he?
Yes.
Right.
Francisco wants to know, as this is the summer of socks.
Yeah. Dan Jones.
Yeah.
What's your favourite pair of socks ever?
Well, that was quite clever.
I was trying to make it.
Yeah. I liked it.
Did it?
Yes, as it's the summer of socks, we thought it might be fun, just for us to go back through all the socks that we own.
Yeah.
And this is socks that we own. Not necessarily
so we've not
socks.
necessarily knit ourselves.
No.
Someone else could have knit
socks
for
that someone
you.
has knit for us.
Yeah.
Which are our favourites. And I've actually got 2 pairs, and one of them. Yeah. But you'll see why in a second. These socks are definitely the ones which I have worn the most.
Look at the state of those; they need washing.
And I see what you mean. Look.
Yeah, I know. Now I've got a whole big thing to talk about, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. These are, what's the pattern?
Oh, I made it up.
Well, Kay made this up. It's
kind of like a blueberry waffle, but not quite.
It's the wonderful Valem Hadriani.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it's been knit in. It's West Yorkshire Spinners, isn't it?
Well, I think this is the yarn that came from Deb, but I think it's West Yorkshire Spinners.
It is.
Yarn.
Yes.
Am I right, Deb? I think I am.
It is.
And although I like the West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, you know we've spoken about it several times, it is a bit on the thin side.
And whilst I've worn these a lot, I have socks much older.
Yes.
Which have been worn just as much.
Yes.
Over a much longer period.
And have not.
Worn
look
like
what's
these
happened.
have.
You know, I remember I knit these fairly recently, didn't I? And I'll hold it up. Can you see? Look what's happened. You can see that, can't you? It's hanging literally by a thread.
So
I am going to fix it.
I love the pattern, right? And I love the colourway. And I love everything about them. But the yarn is just not holding up.
The yarn base isn't quite holding up. These
cannot be my favourites.
Right, but I have a plan. I do have another skein of that, so what I'm going to do is knit him another pair at a much tighter gauge with a much higher stitch count.
What are my favourite ever socks?
Really? They're your favourite ever socks?
Yes.
I can't believe it.
Why?
I don't know.
These are my favourite ever socks.
Can't believe
and
that.
These are my favourite ever socks because they're really, really comfortable. They're really nice to wear.
Yeah.
I wear them on a night at bedtime. I don't wear them in bed, obviously, because I'd be a bit warm.
You'd be boiled.
Yeah. But I've worn these loads. Look, they're wearing great, but it's obviously because they're R2D2 and BB-8. Yes. They are my stole socks, so I love the design, which came out. Which is rather nice. And the fit is great, and the yarn is Drops Fable, isn't it?
It's Drops Fable, but I held it double. Well done.
Come on.
So that I think, that's what's making it very hard wear. I held it double and I cast on, I think it was 56 stitches for those. So it was probably a worsted weight.
So these are my favourite ever socks.
Wow.
Kay Jones, what are your favourite ever socks?
Well, I'm going to pop them onto a blocker because they need to be...
Because they're that amazing.
I don't wear these socks very often because I don't want them to wear out. Because they are my favourites.
Interesting heel flap.
It's the one from Hermione's Everyday.
Okay.
You probably remember me knitting these socks. Can you remember? I think I was knitting these when we were away one time at Easter. So that a year ago, just over a year ago, I was knitting these socks. And this pattern, it's a combination of the blueberry waffle on here. And this is the heel flap and the toe decreases from Hermione's Everyday. So I think I called them my my Hermione waffle socks on my project page. And the yarn I dyed myself.
That is amazing.
I know, and...
It's like, that's amazing.
I know. And although, I love variegated yarns, as you know, but I'm always worried it's going to pull. Whereas a tonal yarn...
You didn't dye that.
I did. I know.
She's fibbing.
I know. Whereas a tonal yarn like this, there's no risk of that happening. So I really, really enjoy socks that are knit in a tonal yarn rather than, the madly variegated ones. I just loved the combination of the blueberry waffle and the Hermione's, and the fit is perfect and the yarn base is lovely. It's got a sparkle in it. It's got a silver sparkle.
Is that Stellina?
Yes. And it was, I don't know if can you see the sparkle? If I hold it, you probably can't. You probably can't see the sparkle. So I don't wear these very often because they're kind of precious, and I'd rather just know that I've got them than wear them out, you know what I mean? So they're my favourites.
Well, I'm blown away, to be honest, because you wear those so little.
I know.
I'd actually forgotten that you even had them.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm even more blown away that you dyed the yarn.
Thanks very much.
And the pattern is just gorgeous, isn't it?
That's my favourite pair of socks ever. So show us yours.
Yeah!
Hashtag
favourite ever socks.
Favourite ever socks.
Yes.
On
share
Instagram.
it everywhere. Instagram.
Yes.
Patron, share it on the Patrons Facebook group.
Show us.
Any way you like. In the Ravelry, in the episode 52 thread. So you have to show us your favourite ever socks.
I'm going to sneak in.
Whoa. Hold on.
I'm sneaking in a sock.
No. Censored.
No, I am.
Get off.
No, I'm showing it. Look.
Oh, okay then.
Now, well.
I was worried then. I thought you were going to fall off the chair.
Well, I might have.
It just went onto 2 legs.
Look.
What is it?
Well, it's lovely, isn't it?
This summer of socks malarkey. It's just not.
However,
Oh.
I'm having a real problem right now. And I suppose this is a good point to tell you about my problem. I'll just find the ball band for this. And look.
Ah, that's clever.
I'm using a little pouch that lovely Sasha made me. How cute is this? And it matches this beautiful bag up here, which she sent me for my birthday, Sasha. I love it. But this little pouch, she said I could put secret things in it, like secret sweets, to keep it from Dan. But what I'm using it for, Sasha, is I'm keeping all my ball bands, you know, for the summer of socks, and it's brilliant. I'm not losing anything. So this particular one is Opal. It's the Sweet and Spicy 3, and it's kiwi is the colourway. 9.
I don't like kiwis.
Well, I like them, but they don't like me. It's a bit like melons. I have a...
Oh, and it's similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
The flesh is similar.
I love melon, but when I eat it, my throat kind of swells up, my lips swell up. So
I wonder if anyone knows what chemical is in those. If you do, let us know. That'd be interesting.
I love it, but it doesn't love me, sadly. So it's Opal Sweet and Spicy 3 in the kiwi. And I started these recently, and I'm knitting them exactly as I always knit socks for Dan, 72 stitches on a 2.5mm needle.
But
and
there's a problem.
There's a problem, everybody, and I'm kind of distressed about this
problem. We know
problem.
what the problem is, though. We have established. You can see.
I know what the problem is.
You can absolutely see that is tight.
I picked this up again last night, and I thought, that looks really small for a sock for Dan. It just looks small. Because as you know, Dan's feet are very large.
Yes, we've established this.
So I thought, right, I'm going to measure my gauge. So I measure my gauge on this sock. This is 2.5mm Opal yarn. My gauge is 9 stitches to the inch. That to me is quite a tight gauge. So then I started measuring the gauge on socks that I'm knitting for me on a 2.25mm. And I'm getting 9.5 stitches to the inch on that. So this is not a lot different. What it means, of course, is this only measures 4 inches across here, so it's 8 inches around for the ankle. Dan's ankles are almost 11 inches.
Come on!
Now, although we like a bit of negative ease, that's just way too much negative ease. And also, the circumference around the ball of his foot is actually bigger than his ankle. He's just got ridiculous feet, I can't even tell you.
Egyptian feet?
So,
whatever that is.
Whatever that is. Big? Does that mean? I think it's the shape how your feet are very pointy. But it's even bigger around the ball of his foot. I think the conclusion is I'm going to have to rip this out. Now, I've worked out, or we have worked out, why this is happening, why my gauge is so much tighter. And I've measured the gauge on like a previous sock that I knit a while ago that's in my sock basket, but I knit a good while ago. And on a 2.25, there's 9 stitches to the inch on that. That seems to be my kind of norm for a 2.25, but I'm now getting 9 stitches to the inch on a 2.5mm, which clearly I'm knitting much tighter. If you remember a while ago, I can't remember at what point I changed, but I slightly changed the way that I knit. And I think this is what's causing, obviously, the problem. So I can either, I've got 2 choices. I can either go back to the way I always knit before, or I'm going to have to cast on more stitches, aren't I? And like Dan said this morning, really it's much of a muchness, because although I was knitting faster the way that I changed it to, I'd have to cast on more stitches. It kind of would probably work its way out, wouldn't it?
Yes.
So I don't know what to do, because I'm now worried. I'll show you another sock in a minute, and I'm worried that it looks tiny. So I'm just having this big gauge thing at the minute, but this one I think is going to have to be ripped out. I'm going to have to start again. So I don't know what to do really, because I love the way it's knitting up, and I know Scully Woolly's just finished a pair in this and they look lovely.
There's no way I could try it on, is there?
Well, you could well no, not on DPNs. You wouldn't get your foot through that.
No.
I'd have to take it off the DPNs. I don't think at the moment. I don't think at the moment it'd get that comfortably over the big bit. You know, the big bit where your ankle. I don't know what that bit's called. Do you know the largest bit where you got your ankle and it goes up?
That's too small.
I think it's too small.
So
it's all a bit of a nightmare, isn't it, really, that? I feel like I've wasted lots of knitting time because I think things are too small. And I don't know that even like the other one would fit Bryony.
Well, you either need to cast on more stitches.
I need to cast on more stitches, and I think realistically, so if Dan's ankle is like 10.5, 11 inches, and I'm knitting at 9 stitches to the inch, that means I have to cast on almost 100 stitches, doesn't it, to get like, that'd be 0 ease, obviously.
Go you!
Not going to do that. But I could cast on 80 stitches, couldn't I, and see what that's like. And that would obviously mean that his socks are going to take me even longer to knit. Or do I go up to a 2.75 mil?
Well, no, they're not going to take you even longer to knit. If you go back to your old way of knitting, then your tension, your gauge will change.
Yeah.
Or you were knitting faster.
Yes,
yeah?
and it would.
So you cast on more. So it's going to end up the same amount of time.
And that would probably be a better sock anyway, because it would be a tighter gauge.
So you think sticking with what you're currently doing?
I think sticking with how I knit now and casting on more stitches is probably what I'm going to have to do. So I think I'm going to have a little assessment of all of the socks that's in my basket at the moment and just decide what I'm going to do.
I think that's a good idea. And I think it's an utter disgrace.
Can you see?
Sneaking in is just not cricket. And I think now that we need to start this section properly.
Right.
With me asking you, Kay Jones.
Yes.
What is on your needles?
Okay, I'll pop that one away.
I am banning, that's it, I'm banning socks.
Oh my goodness, really?
You're not allowed to show a sock this time.
Oh right, okay, I'll show something else
You
then.
better.
I will. Right, let me pop that blocker over there. I'm going to show you something that I actually cast this on it feels like a long time ago, and the patrons will have seen this already. I haven't touched it in ages, and to be honest, I kind of forgot about it.
Dear.
It was in a project bag in my room, as I now put everything in my sort of office cum sewing room cum craft room. And I saw it the other day and I thought, oh,
why don't you
gosh.
just stick with craft room?
Yeah, I know. I saw it the other day and I thought, gosh,
Or
I'm going to pick that
studio.
up. Studio. Not really big enough for a studio, is it? And it's a hat. And I started this hat because everybody just lately, and still now, it was more maybe a couple of months ago, everybody was knitting brioche. And I think, a lot of people are still knitting brioche. I'm not a massive fan of how you have to knit brioche. And I think the reason people knit it is because you do the whole 2-colour thing, don't you? And it looks really pretty when you do 2-colour brioche. You get one colour showing underneath the kind of, the knit stitches coming down. It looks really lovely. I'm just not a fan of how you have to knit that. But it made me remember that actually it looks exactly the same as a fisherman's rib. And my mum used to knit jumpers for my dad to go fishing in a fisherman's rib. Makes sense, because it's a very thick fabric, and it keeps you warm, obviously, when you sat on the riverbank. So I thought, right, okay, I did a bit of looking into it, and a lot of I'll actually look through my mum's old pattern books, and of course they were all knit flat. So I had a little bit of an experiment and worked out how you knit it in the round. It's not very difficult. And I thought I'd knit a hat in fisherman's rib, so I cast one on, and look, isn't it lovely? And you can see, if you open up the stitches, in there is normally where you see the second colour when you're knitting 2-colour brioche. But I think it actually looks identical to brioche stitch. And I really enjoy knitting fisherman's rib, and I think it's working really well for a hat. And the yarn I'm using is Dancing Dog Dye Works, it's waltz worsted, and Michelle, I can't remember the colourway, I can't find the tag, which is terrible, isn't it? But it's this colourway. So Michelle, tell me, it was something like Lovey Dovey or something like that. So it's this beautiful grey with pops of like a limey green and a pink. It's really pretty. And what's happening is because of the way that you knit fisherman's rib, it's breaking up. If you look in the rib here where it's normal 1 by 1, can you see it started to do a swirly thing? But because of the way you knit fisherman's rib, look, it breaks it all up. And I really love that. So I thought I'd pick this back up and try and get it finished because I think it will make a super lovely. It's so thick. If you've never knit, fisherman's rib or brioche before, it produces an incredibly thick fabric. I don't know whether it's going to transfer onto screen, but it's effectively double-sided. It's really, really thick and squishy, and I thought it would make a perfect hat. So I'm working on that, and I think it's really very relaxing stitch to knit and not difficult at all, whereas brioche, I find it a little bit of a faff. And if you don't want to do a 2-colour brioche and you just want to do plain brioche, fisherman's rib is the way to go. I love it. So that's my lovely hat, and I'm knitting this on 3.25 mils, which is quite a small needle size for a worsted, but because again of the way that the fabric is so thick and squishy, I went down a needle size to make sure that it didn't come out too big.
Yeah.
So Dan Jones.
What?
What's on your needles?
Well, it's a hat. So much for the summer of socks.
I know, summer of hats, isn't
Francisco
it?
has gone. He's had his fun.
I'm just going to carry on with this for a while. I was going to knit something else, but I'm just going to carry on.
Yeah, well, just be aware that I will be asking you again in a
They're
moment.
right there.
Excellent. We want nice, slick changeovers.
I am the queen of slick.
Yes. It's a speargrass hat by the amazing Susie Gawley.
Oh.
And this is nearly lowered into my peppermint tea, but thankfully it hasn't. See? It was about to drop in and start sucking up some tea.
Don't do that.
No, I'm not going to do that. It's Dreams in Fibre, and I frustratingly can't remember what it's called. It's Clover. Haha.
It's just right. It's Superwash.
Of course it is.
Superwash Merino DK, I believe.
And I've just started doing the holes. I've just begun the lace.
Should have seen the concentration on his face.
Well, it's still happening. There you go. You can see a bit there. It's a really, really good colour to do this in because it looks like leaves.
It does. Yeah.
I would strongly recommend doing it in a greeny colour, or any, not necessarily a greeny colour, but a colour that you could think, oh yeah, that's from a flower or a tree or something that's grown outside. And I think that fits with the idea of the design as well, because I know that Susie named it after the speargrass that used to poke through her clothes when she was out playing.
Oh yeah.
I won't lie, it's definitely hard. And I've just paused now and I passed the slip stitch over. I can't see, and I was saying that for my own benefit, not yours. I'm struggling to get the rhythm. The ribbing, it was really easy to get in the rhythm of the ribbing.
Because you could read it anyway, couldn't you? You should be able to. Once you've done a few more, you should be able to read your lace though.
Well, probably, but until I think you get an understanding of what it is that you've done and how it corresponds to what's below, then that's slightly tricky. I'm not saying I don't like it. I definitely don't like it. Robin, winner of Knit or Forfeit Round, and who made me do this.
Yep.
I definitely do like it, and I'm enjoying seeing holes in my work.
That are meant to be there.
Yeah, as opposed to ones that aren't meant to be there. So I suspect I will do more of this, I think. And I have a feeling I'm going to like this hat when it's finished. And I have a feeling you'll look nice in it when it's finished. Someone said I haven't done that much more ribbing than it said. It said to do 1 to 1.5 inches of ribbing.
You've done about 2 inches, I think.
And the reason being is we just like a bit more of a rib on a hat.
Yeah.
It's personal choice, isn't it? When you're knitting. And the reason why I brought this up is someone said, "Oh, did I do that so I didn't have to do as much lace?" Well, that's not true. That's just not true. I love the colour. The yarn is great to work with. Really, really great to work with. And the pattern I'm enjoying. There's nothing that's annoying me about the pattern, which I think is always good.
Oh, that's always good.
Because what was the one that I found a bit annoying? Was it the windchief?
Yes. Well, it was only the decreases you found annoying.
Yes.
You were okay with the rest.
But I gifted it to my mum, and
oh my gosh, she loves that hat.
She absolutely loves that hat. So,
she showed it to all of her knitting group and everything, and they loved it, and they all wanted to knit one, didn't they?
Kay Jones,
Yes.
what else is on your needles?
Okay. It's another sock, of course.
Look at the stripes.
I know. Well,
That's such a happy sock.
I know. Well, the lovely Michelle, Dancing Dog Dye Works, only went and sent me a birthday parcel.
Nice. Lucky girl.
I know. And she sent me a skein of yarn. My goodness, this yarn. Let me find the tag in my handy little pouch. Here it is. Ha, my system works. She sent me Twist Sock Plus, which I'd never knit with that one before. It's an 80-20 superwash merino and nylon, and it's a high twist, which I really like. And the colourway is called Happy Birthday Cheeky. It's named after her dog, whose birthday was the same month as mine. So she had to send me her colourway. And look at the sock. Oh my goodness, look. Oh, isn't it lovely? So it's these bright neon pink and purple and a speckly stripe with these little neon-y pops. It's so nice. It's beautiful yarn to knit with. I'm really enjoying it. And I'm knitting it. I decided to do this one on a circular to knit magic loop just for a change. And I've measured the gauge on this one and it's about 9 stitches to the inch. So I think, I'm hoping that's okay for me now. I'm hoping that's not too tight. And even if, I mean, looking at it, it's pretty stretchy, that, isn't it? And even if it is a bit small for me, I can handily now give them to Bryony. You know, because her foot, she's got a much more slender ankle than mine, I'm very grateful to say. And obviously her foot's a bit smaller than mine. So I'm not worried about these ones. So I just love it. It's so pretty. Such happy stripes, isn't it? So that's it in the cake. And look how the pink is just blowing out because it's so neon. So lovely. And I think what I'll do for the heel is I'm going to pull from the middle. I'll probably wind off a little ball actually, because I find it, when you're pulling from the middle and you've still got the outside attached, I sometimes get it twisted. So I'll probably just pull off a little ball for the heels when I get to them. So really loving knitting that. So Michelle, thank you so much. That was so kind and such a lovely surprise. I love it. So yes, and I put it into one of my little DPN holders. I made this a while ago, but the colours just kind of matched. I've made these, I mean obviously I'm not sewing at the moment as you know, but I've made these in several different ways, and when I first made them, it's actually 4 pieces of fabric, because when you make it with one piece of fabric, the print on the other side will be upside down. And I kind of prefer it to have the print the right way up on both sides. It depends on the print, obviously, you know, sometimes it doesn't matter. So this one has got print, you know, the right way up on both sides. And I just thought the colour, you know, the pinks in this, and it was just matched really lovely. So that's that.
I take your sock and I raise it with another sock.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. This is part way through a row, but I think I can hold it up so you can see it. I've just done one extra bit of ribbing.
What do you mean?
I should have been knitting now.
Oh, it doesn't matter, darling. The world's not going to end, is it? There's one
slightly
extra row of ribbing.
Slightly too far on the ribbing. But here it is. It's some more opal Wintermond. And as soon as I finished... Is that right?
It is, and I've stuck the ball band inside the thing because I know you
As soon as I finished the last ones, which I'll be showing you later, and I actually like the colourway of this more than the last ones.
Oh, really?
And it'll be interesting to see what you think, because of course they are for you.
It's lovely, isn't it?
It's perfect for knitting socks with, absolutely perfect. And I'm really lucky, I do like green actually, as we saw on the old clover hat too, and it's got blues in it and greens in it, and there's a bit of white and a bit of sort of grey.
8-ply, and I actually translated what this means.
Alright.
I did a translate on Google, and this colourway is hiking through the snow.
Ah, that's nice.
Or No, I'm not going to try it.
Must be wet snow.
I'm not even going to try pronouncing it, but there's the colourway name and number.
It must be wet snow where a bit of grass is showing through and a bit of dirt. That makes sense.
Well, yeah.
You can see a bit of dirt, a bit of grass.
Or maybe the boots
white's
are
the snow.
green and blue.
Maybe. It's my second pair of socks. It's the fastest I've ever finished a pair of socks and started a second pair of socks. I will now I've finished one pair of socks, I will post my socks back. And it doesn't matter. I know a few people have said, I can't post mine because I've not really done very much. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not about the size at all. I'm quite clever though in the fact that mine's slightly chunky, so it will be slightly larger.
I did say this last time,
Yes.
didn't I? That if you're clever,
I followed some.
you'll knit a few pairs of DK weight or worsted weight to boost your stack.
Yeah. So let's see how far on I am with this. My plan is, crumbs, yes, I'm going to try and have this one finished and I've cast on the next one by the next podcast. So maybe I should be at this point on the next one, on the next podcast, on the second sock. I don't get a second sock syndrome at all.
I'm not too bad, as long as I cast it on straight away, the second one.
Oh yeah.
I usually knit the second one quicker than the first one, to be honest.
Because you're in the groove.
Because I just want to get the pair done at that point, yeah.
I'm in the groove. What's on your needles?
Right. It's another sock.
Oh.
Are you? Oh.
Because it's the summer of socks. They're loving it. Go and check out the hashtag on Instagram. Some of the pictures that you're going to see. I found some pictures of a lady in Scotland who I think she has a small holding, and she's been posting some of the most amazing summer of socks pictures next to locks and sheep and horses and hills.
Do I know it?
Shops. She posted a great. No, I don't think you are. She posted a great one of a shop. You know how I always called crochet. Well, some shop in some little village or town in Scotland misspelt that they were running a crochet class. Well, or maybe they didn't. Maybe they were a music shop and a knitting shop. Who knows? But they put crochet classes starting at.
How do you spell crochet? As in the musical.
T before the CHET.
Right.
Crochet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, this next pair, these are my forfeit socks, Zena, and, well,
Grim.
We've got pooling going on, people. We've got pooling.
Look at that.
Well, I only knit a tiny rib.
That's an embarrassment of a rib. Get out.
Look, Zena said to me I could knit whatever I want. She didn't specify I had to knit a long leg.
When the grand final of Knit or Forfeit starts, next episode, we're going to need to be very strong on the stipulations on what the forfeit is.
Zena was very kind and she said I could knit whatever I want, so therefore I chose to knit a short pair of socks. And look, what do you notice about this sock? Apart from the fact that we've got this weird pooly thing going on.
What do we notice? I tell you what I noticed.
I'll tell you the other side. Look
the heel.
I mean, just look at that. What is that? What is that? It's like it's like it's taking the mickey, isn't it? Really. What is going on there?
That looks like a bird flying.
Ugh. And
is it the heel?
Look, it's picked back up here. It's coming back through.
Is the heel?
It is the heel. Can you see the heel? And yes, there is a tiny hole there at the, the edge here, but I don't know what to do about that.
Did you bump with a lace in?
I'm not that bothered really. I think it's okay. I knit a garter stitch short row heel.
Amazing.
How exciting!
Was it exciting?
Well, I knit it from this book first of all because I'm sure you'll want to know. It's from Lucy Neatby's Cool Socks, Warm Feet. I don't know if this is still in print because I got this a while ago and I struggled to find it because I think it was out of print at the time, but I don't know if it's back in print now. So it's from this book. It actually took me much longer to knit this heel than I expected. I think it's partly because I'd never knit one like this before, so it took me a while to realise what was going on. And also, I don't know, I mean, it probably took me 2 hours, I think, to knit this heel, which seems a long time to me. I think really I should have knocked it out much quicker than that. I enjoyed knitting it, and I think it looks really nice. However, the kind of main issue that I had was, normally, I'm just so used to knitting, as you know, heel flaps and turns and gusset decreases. By the time you finish the gusset decreases, you're kind of quite a way down the leg, aren't you? The foot. Quite a way down the foot, and you've not got really that much more to go. because there isn't any gusset decreases on this, I finished the heel, but I was still up here, you know, I was still way up here. So when you start knitting in the round again, I felt like I'd not achieved anything for that 2 hours of knitting. Does that even make sense? The good thing about this heel is I think it's inserted in over, I think it was 60% of the stitches. So it said it was good for somebody who's got a higher instep, which I have. But even so, I'm still bothered that this diameter here is going to be a stretch. Also, my gauge is stupidly tight again on this. It's like 9.5 going on to 10 stitches per inch. So again, I'm not even sure that it will fit, but I think it will fit Bryony. So I think I'll be okay. So that's that one. And the yarn is Araucania. Now, have I kept the ball band for this one? This will be a good test because I started this before I started my pouch method. That sounds terrible. I have got it. And this is the yarn that lovely Zena gave me. It's Araucania Ranco, which is a 75-25 wool and nylon, 344 metres. So Araucania Ranco, and the colourway is PT502. What a lovely colourway name.
PT502.
PT502.
PT501, get back to your post.
And who's that? Oh, on Star Wars?
Yes.
Oh, right. And that's the colour. It looks lovely, doesn't it, in the skein, but it is doing this. And Zena mocked me on Instagram. She was like, ha ha, that's pooling. She's so mean, everybody. So there we go, there's the sock. So I am doing my forfeit and I am persevering.
Look.
Wow.
My point is vanishing. It's the vanishing point hat in Knit by Numbers yarn. Vanishing point hat by Sock Mortician. I didn't show it last time, and I didn't show it last time because it takes a long time to knit double knitting.
It does.
But that's not to say that I go through peaks and troughs with this. And I think that's because variety is, of course, the spice of life, as my granny used to say. And I think by having some variety, as I'm sure you all know, having some variety in the projects that you're knitting is really, really good. Because when I go away from this and then come back to it, it's really cool. I like the... of all the things I've ever knit, I'm most happy with what is appearing underneath my needles with this. I mean,
it is lovely.
Yeah, I suppose.
I won't deny that it's lovely.
I suppose now I'm getting to the point now where you're sort of starting to think, what's it going to be like when it's finished? Granted, I'm not even halfway. I think I have to do.
Yeah, how many of those?
That effectively, I think, is supposed to be the rip.
You don't have to do that though.
Well, I think that's the point. And I'd be a bit disappointed.
Oh, right, okay.
Because otherwise, what's the point in double knitting it?
True.
The idea is that it's cuffed over. So I have another 2 to do before the decreases.
Okay.
And do you think is that going to be too big?
Well, probably not, because and even if it is, you just cuff it more, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you'd cuff it over like that and have. See, when you do that, you're actually only an inch in, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I say.
Don't you find that a bit depressing?
Yes. I do.
Which is why I said I'd just wear it like that.
You have to. Yeah, I think you have to adjust your mindset.
Gosh, is it going to be big enough? No, it'll be fine.
Well, no.
It's pulling down. Look, it's pulling down. Yeah.
Sure.
It's pulling down. Look, it's now sort of like that. What do you think? I look like a gnome.
You look like a Vesuvius.
It'll be fine.
Do you think?
Yes, especially with the wash.
I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with double knitting when it's blocked. I suppose it's going to.
Well, you would think it would. I suppose. I don't know, Nathan. Does it behave any differently when you block it to normal? To singular knit. I don't know. I'm sure it will relax the whole thing anyway, won't it? Yeah. And it should be. Yeah.
I mean, you don't have a big head though, do you?
No.
I find the knitting very soothing because you have to think about it. That's a bit frustrating, and I have seen that experienced double knitters hold their knitting. They've got one side and one the other.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I know Nathan does that.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it.
Well, I'm sure, if you were doing double knitting all the time and you sort of, you know, really got into the nitty gritty of technique, then, and you know, maybe I'll get to that point. Who knows? But at the moment, my goal really is just to get to the decreases, because I know that's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to deal with those decreases. What else is on your needles?
Well, the last thing, it is the last thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's not the last thing on my needles, but it's the last thing I'm going to show you this week. I've started.
Well, that's not because I've banned her from showing anything more.
But I've started a 10-stitch blanket, and I'm doing this because I'm going to do a tutorial for the patrons on it. It's a free pattern on Ravelry with thousands and thousands and thousands of projects, and I've always quite fancied having a go at it. And I thought, well, this is a good opportunity to have a go and at the same time, you know, do a tutorial. So I've started a practice one. This one I just did just to give it a go, and it's not difficult. The pattern is really excellent, actually. You know, if you follow the pattern exactly as it's written, I don't think it's tricky. And once you start knitting it, it becomes clearer as to exactly what you're doing. So this is my first little attempt, which is a bit messy. But what I'm working out at the moment is, you know, the best way of picking up the stitches and the best way of working the decrease that you do around here. And if you can see down, oh, I'm all back to front, down this edge here, can you see this bit's lovely and neat? These ones are not so neat. So this is me working out the best way of doing it, and I think I've got it now with this bit here. You can see it's really lovely and neat. Likewise here, you only pick up once, you know, on a cast on edge, because you only cast on 10 stitches obviously, but you can see here, this is the bit that's right, and this is the bit that's wrong. And again, up the side, oh, it's so hard when it's all back to front. Up the side here, I didn't like this one because the little chains end up on the side of your knitting, so I didn't like that way. So I've just been kind of trialing it to work out exactly the best way for me of making it look as neat as possible. It's very fun to do. I'm just using some King Cole Merino DK just to try it, and these are my cute Knit Pro Novas, I believe, 3.75mm 6-inch straight needles, which are very cute. So what I did was the pattern actually suggests you use a Norro. I don't care for Norro, I'll be honest. I have used it once before. I knit one of the Spectra shawls. I think it's a Stephen West pattern, isn't it? It's quite an old pattern. I knit one of the Spectra shawls for Dan's mum. She loves it actually. And I'm pretty sure I used Norro for the, you know, the wedges.
So there was a name. You know, when you say Norro,
Norro.
my head
immediately... It's Japanese.
Yeah, but my head immediately says virus afterwards.
Oh, right.
So I don't associate it with necessarily nice things.
Right. Well, anybody who's knit with Norro knows what it's like, but it's a single ply, but I find it twists like the absolute devil. Do you know when a yarn sort of twists back on itself? It's like it's overspun. I think that's the right terminology. It drove me absolutely doolally knitting with it, and I vowed that I would never knit with it again after that, and I haven't actually. So what I did was I went looking for a yarn that might look similar to a Norro, but that wasn't a Norro. And I found this one. It's called King Cole Riot. It's double knitting. It's actually 70% acrylic and 30 wool. I know it has got some acrylic in it, and I love the colourway. The colourway is Volcano, which I think is just lovely, isn't it? I love that pinky colour and the plums, and it goes into like a almost black. And I just really like these colours. So that's King Cole Riot, and it's very reasonably priced. I think it was £3 something for a ball I think I got it from Love Knitting or Wool Warehouse, one or the other. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to cast on another one and knit a nice sample of it, so that I've got a sample obviously to show for the tutorial, and then I will, you know, knit it in a plain yarn for the actual tutorial, just to show the demonstration. So I am enjoying it, and I knit that really in one sitting. I think it's going to be a fun thing to do.
Cool.
Yeah, so.
Exciting.
Yes.
I think we should go back to Bolton Castle.
Okay.
And we should find out loads more, because in the first half it was very much about Elizabeth I and about Xena at Kenilworth.
Yes.
And I would love to visit Kenilworth, actually.
Yeah, it looks lovely.
And it did set us off, actually, going to Bolton. Just, as we show you round, you'll get a feel, and you will have done in the first one as well, that it's a much more covered over and lived in castle.
Right.
Even though they don't live in it.
No.
But it's roofed.
Yes.
Or one part of it is.
Yeah.
So you get much more of a vibe of how it would have been to live there. And you didn't like that.
No, it was very castle-like. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it?
You prefer ruins, don't you?
I kind of do, because it was very damp, and there was a lot of mould on the walls all over.
You can see why they moved out of them and into
Yeah,
the lovely
but
standing
I guess
homes.
I guess like Dan says, that's the point. You can really see what it must have been like living there, and it can't have really been a very healthy environment, I don't think.
The beauty of as well of Bolton is you get the best of both worlds, because half of it is still covered over and half of it is in ruin.
Yeah.
So you can see both. But also, what we're going to show you a little bit of when we go back as well is it's got some lovely gardens.
Yes.
So let's go back and find out
Yes.
a bit more about Mary Queen of Scots.
Okay.
Welcome back to Favourite Places to Knit. The year is 1559. The 9th Baron Scrope is calling this home, and little does he know that historic events are about to take place that are going to make this one of the most important castles in the whole country. In that year of 1559, as the 9th Baron Scrope looked out from his bedroom window here, now we're going to enter into his bedroom and have a little look around, he was surveying his lands as Mary was becoming Queen of France. Now, she'd spent the majority of her life in the French court, and she was ready and excited to begin her life as a regent of a powerhouse of the 1500s. She was vivacious, young and beautiful, a perfect queen consort. The beauty of the castles that Mary would have been living in France couldn't be further from this dark and dreary bedroom. Now, I think this does give you a really good insight into what it was like to live inside castles. This is a dark, dank and, at times quite an oppressive space. I think having a fire lit and the windows thrown open has a massive difference, as you can see there in that picture. How different this was to the life that Mary was leading, but it was about to change. 18 months into her reign, Mary's world was turned upside down. Her husband, King Francis, contracted an ear infection which developed into an abscess on his brain. He died, and before she had turned 18, she had no throne and nowhere to turn to in France. She returned home to Scotland to take up her birthright and govern as queen. She quickly met and fell in love with her first cousin, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley. The marriage caused uproar to many Scots, and it put tremendous pressure on Mary and her husband, Lord Darnley, who were initially very much in love. Mary turned to her Italian secretary for advice through this difficult time. Unfortunately, though, this drove her husband into a jealous rage. With the support of Lord Darnley, Scottish lords murdered Mary's secretary in her presence at Holyrood Palace. Mary was 6 months pregnant at the time with Lord Darnley's son. The act started a chain reaction of events which would force Mary out of Scotland. Within 6 months, Lord Darnley, Mary's husband, was dead. The circumstances of his murder are a mystery to this day. His murder split the country in two, those who supported Queen Mary and those who didn't. Mary, Queen of Scots, met her opponents on the battlefield, but she lost, and she was forced to abdicate, and her son became king. He became James VI, and he was only 1 year old. Now, she couldn't stay in Scotland, she had to get out, so with the help of a few brave friends, she crossed the Solway Firth and made it into England. As Mary made her way across the Solway Firth, Elizabeth was still sat on a powder keg of potential trouble in England. Mary had tried to claim the throne before, she was Catholic, and Elizabeth, of course, was still head of the brand new Church of England. Elizabeth had no choice but to place her cousin under house arrest. That way she could keep her away from the English barons who might just support the return of a Catholic monarch. The first place that she brought Mary was here, Castle Bolton. So shall we make our way up through the entrance? Now, this isn't the entrance that Mary would have used. That's actually round the other side of the castle in the ruined part. This is the only part of the castle which is still roofed, so still as it would have been in the time that Mary was there. And it's perfect that it is, because this is where Mary spent the majority of her time. And we're going to go and explore probably the most important of all the rooms, and that's her bedroom. But this is the way in if you were to go and visit today. So steps are key in a keep, because keeps traditionally were multi-layered. The further up you went, as we've already discovered in some of our adventures in the Founding Fathers, the more important you were. So Mary was most certainly not going to be above the 9th Baron Scrope, whose bedroom we've already been in. She was going to be in the bedroom directly below that. But before we get there, we get to this beautiful... Now, it's not covered anymore. It would have been covered, obviously, when Mary was here, but here is a chapel. And there's no doubt at all, in my mind, that she would have come in here and she would have prayed. She was a devout Catholic, and this would have been her only access to anywhere sacred. So Mary would have been in here and would have used this to pray. Kay's being very, very courageous there, because she really doesn't like heights. Now we're going to make our way back inside, and this is the solar. Now the solar is where the ladies in waiting and Mary would have sat and talked, and Mary spent an awful lot of time learning English from one of her keepers, a man called Francis Knollys. You also saw in the corner there as well, and we're going to show some more in just a second. There's some flowers. Now the flowers were because the castle is used for weddings. And it was actually used for a wedding the day before that we were there. And it's also a very traditional decoration that would most probably have been seen in the time of Mary. Fresh flowers coming in to try and make, as we've already discovered, a very dank, dark and at times miserable place a little bit more sunny. This is Mary Queen of Scots' bedroom. For 6 months, this is where she would have slept. It's a fair size, but you've got to think that the people within her retinue, e.g. the people who worked for her, was about 53. Now they all wouldn't have been in here at the same time, of course, but this is where she would have sat and lived and spoken and also learnt English from one of the people who was taking care of her, a man called Francis Knollys. It's amazing to be in here. And as Kay said a moment ago, the bed seems so small because Mary was actually quite a tall lady. I think she was 6 foot, which was very extraordinary for a woman of that time. One of the joys of history for me is walking in the footsteps of the people who you are learning about, and you could not ask for more in Bolton Castle. This, there is no doubt, would have been a window that Mary would have stood and looked out of. Yes, she could go out and walk around the gardens, and it was a very free approach to house arrest. Here are the gardens with some really beautiful flowers in there, traditional flowers, a lot of these used for dyeing. So yeah, it was a very free house arrest, but it still was house arrest. But in that time, Mary was extremely keen to try and impress her cousin. She learnt English because her traditional language, the language that she knew, was Scots and also French. And she got very close to those men who were taking care of her. Now we found an extra special treat at the end of this path. There's some Wensleydale sheep. Just have a listen to this.
Look, there they are. Look at their locks. They're really long, aren't they?
Elizabeth wrestled hard with what to do with her cousin for the next 19 years, and there's no doubt that on one of her many visits to Kenilworth, as she strolled through the gardens with her love Robert Dudley, she would have discussed Mary. She desperately wanted to treat her civilly, and I believe, reading the books that I've read, that she wanted some sort of relationship and in some way to release her, but she remained in captivity. But dark forces were at work, one most notably in the shape of Sir Francis Walsingham, Elizabeth's most trusted advisor. He set about tricking Mary into supporting the Babington plot. The plan was to assassinate Elizabeth I and place Mary on the throne of England.
In 1586, Elizabeth finally could not put off the inevitable any longer, but still she held back, telling her secretary not to send the warrant for Mary's execution, even though she had signed it.
On the 8th of February 1587, Mary Queen of Scots was executed at Fotheringay Castle. After the executioner had done the deed, traditionally they would lift up the head and say, "Long live whatever the reigning monarch was." So in the case back then, Elizabeth I, it was "Long live the Queen," which was particularly not appropriate considering what had just happened to Mary Queen of Scots. But the reason why I'm telling you this is when he lifted up her head, her hair actually came off, and it's because her hair was a wig. Her hair was actually, traditionally you see photos, don't you? And I'm sure this is how it was when she was young. You see all the red hair, and I think it was quite curly, wasn't it? Well, actually she had very short cropped grey hair. That's the end of our story.
Oh.
But it's not quite the end. No, it isn't, because Mary's son became King of England. So Mary Queen of Scots, who was held here for 6 months, Mary Queen of Scots, her son, James, became King of England. Do you not think that that's pretty huge?
It is.
And here he is, King James, who united the crowns of Scotland and England after so many years of battle. What did he do as soon as he became king? He exhumed his mum, who'd been buried in Peterborough, and moved her here to Westminster Abbey, and here is her tomb. And where does she lay? Opposite her beloved cousin, Queen Elizabeth I.
So can you believe over the last 3 episodes of Favourite Places to Knit, we've covered 600 years in history.
Amazing.
We've picked up with Henry I, and we've finished now with James I, who's about to go on and form the Jacobean dynasty of kings. What shall we do next?
Sorry.
What should we do next?
What should we do next?
Yes.
I don't know. What should we do next?
How about a hunt?
A hunt.
Should we go on a hunt for someone
I
we
know
think
about this
you
hunt.
might know?
Yes!
Are you excited?
Come on! Oh my goodness!
We had this revelation recently, didn't we, that we were able to do this?
I suspect Harry Potter has had a similar but not quite so dramatic effect on sort of world consciousness as Star Wars did.
Well, yeah.
There's no
I think
disputing
so.
the fact that it is, it's one of those concepts from. I think it's unbelievable when someone gets touched with gifted with an amazing story.
Yeah.
That then flows out of them that just captures so many people's
Yeah.
minds. The books I know are just phenomenal, and in a way, I wish I'd not watched the films and I'd gone and read the books.
Well, I read the first 3 books before the films came out, and I loved them. I don't think I read past the 3rd book. I might have actually, and I think I stopped reading it because I just started to get lost in it. There was too much going on, too many characters, but the first 3 books I've read and loved, and Bryony's read them.
So we had this revelation when I noticed that the locations for the film were places that we absolutely know.
Yeah.
So it made...
And it never dawned on us, did
no,
it?
absolutely not. And the other great thing, I don't want to say too much because I've shown pictures of where we're going.
Okay, we won't say any more then.
The only thing that we can say is what you can get excited about right now is the first episode we're going to do, which is what we've just given the date for, 22nd of July 2016. Mark it in your diaries. We are going to Goathland, and Goathland is Hogsmeade Station.
It is.
Now, how cool is that? And that is like 20 minutes in that direction.
Yeah.
The other cool thing about Goathland was also used, I don't know if any of you have caught a TV programme, which I suspect they were going for the sort of James Herriot vibe with.
Yes.
And that's Heartbeat.
Heartbeat, very popular programme.
Yes. Heartbeat was also filmed there. So it's going to be just amazing to go and see locations that we will recognise from Heartbeat, but also, the main reason why we're going is to go and stand on that platform.
And we're hoping to go on a steam train, aren't we?
Yes. So you will get to, it's not the Hogwarts Express, sadly, but we
No,
can imagine
sadly
that
not.
it is.
We can pretend, can't we?
We can look out for cars
We
flying
can.
along. So yeah, it's going to be outstanding, so do not miss it.
Yes.
And then 2 more after that, finishing with
Yes.
where else could we finish? Shh, say nothing. And casual. We're now going to do What's in Your Sweetie Jar.
That's
Hold on. I need to apologise because Celtic Cast On did not send us the sprees.
She didn't.
Now, if you sent us the sprees,
I'm so sorry.
if you sent us this breeze, please send me a message.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I
so
know
sorry, because
who
what
to
we do
credit.
is, we get parcels and then we'll stash things away to eat at some point on the podcast. And obviously we've got confused as to who sent those.
Sorry. But we know full well, although I can't remember now exactly, it was the lady who sent us the yarn for the giveaway who sent us these.
Right.
Well, it's Ashley.
It's Ashley.
Yes,
Ashley sent these
the chocolates.
ones. The
These
chocolates.
are American chocolates. These are
I'll
chocolate.
hold up the bag. It's going to
Yes.
crinkle, so if you don't like crinkly noises, these ones.
These are chocolate meltaways. So I will be trying and scoring the chocolate meltaways.
Yeah.
I'm also going to steal because I really feel like
These
we've
were
had
a
a
gift
couple.
to me.
I've realised that we've had a couple of dodgy episodes where things haven't gone down very well, and I'm feeling positive about this.
These are going to be good.
But I think
I
both
haven't
of
tried
these
them yet.
have got the well. Let's do it.
And the others came from Michelle, Dancing Dog House, and she knows that I can't eat chocolate, so she sent me these. Scandinavian swimmers from Trader Joe's.
And these look like things. These look
like things that we
those
like.
snakes and tips them out. Let's have a look.
Jelly, and they're like all different sea creatures.
There's a dolphin.
And there's no artificial anythings in them. It's really good. Well, yeah, we've got dolphins.
And a spanner.
And no, it's a lobster.
Oh, sorry, a lobster.
I don't know what that is. Some sort of fish. Is that some sort of fish?
Yeah, it is. You can see when it goes away.
And
okay.
dolphins.
What colour are you trying?
I'm going to go for red. I'm going to have a red lobster.
Okay, I'll try green.
Oh, seahorse.
Ooh.
They're nice.
You can tell why there's no...
There's no gelatin. Do you know how normally gummies have beef gelatin normally in, isn't it? There's no gelatin in these. It's all like natural colourings. They're nice.
They're really nice, actually. I'm quite impressed.
You're not having these, they're mine. Thanks very much.
What flavour's the red?
Well, I'm presuming that's kind of blackcurrant. Oh, they're lovely. I love these.
Now, this
Sasha told me that I would like these.
we'll score this in a minute. So that's a Scandinavian
I'm gonna
swimmers. We'll
carry on
score in a
eating
minute.
them.
For an American chocolate,
Oh, it looks
that
good.
looks all right. So chocolate meltaway. I'm not certain.
Oh, what flavour
It's come
is
out
that?
of a red packet.
Red one. Oh, what is that? Oh, it looks like fudge.
No, not red.
What is that? Red. Where's red? Red. Milk chocolate.
Oh,
That's just a solid chocolate. You need to get one.
that's all right.
What's that one? Red and silver. This is exciting looking at the colours, isn't it?
That was okay.
Red and silver is milk chocolate raspberry.
Okay. I'm not getting a lot of raspberry.
Alright, what's blue?
What's blue?
Dark chocolate. Get something a bit more interesting. Milk chocolate coconut, gold and silver.
What's that?
Oh, well, black and silver is milk chocolate mocha.
Okay.
So it's coffee.
They're all...
They look really nice.
The middles are all the same, yeah? So there's no difference with the middles, right?
Alright.
The middle must be just flavoured, just a hint of flavour in each of the
Right.
middles. I think I was maybe expecting the middles to be more reflective of, what the thing is, yeah? So there's nothing wrong with those, nothing insulting about those. So I think I would have to score that a 3 out of 5.
Alright.
So chocolate meltaways scored just above average. If they had a bit of a flavour in there, then that would definitely score them higher. They just seem a bit, I don't know, a bit
bland.
Yeah,
Right.
slightly bland. Whereas the Scandinavian swimmers, give them a score, honey.
I really like them.
What score then?
Oh, it's heading towards, how was it out of?
5.
You see, I'd eat those happily alongside a jelly tot or
So-
a tutti frutti.
Maybe it's 5 then.
Maybe it's 5.
Do you think?
I really like those, and I like the fact that there's no gelatin in them.
So in a nutshell,
And they're gluten free. I've just seen.
America is storming
Michelle.
forward with some great sweets.
Michelle has saved the country.
Well, also save the concept of what's in your sweetie jar, because so far the majority of the things we've tried, we've not particularly liked.
It's been quite hilarious.
And we
isn't
have
it?
some extremely interesting sweets on the way, actually.
Do we?
I think some are coming from Japan. which is going to be extremely interesting. I think they're in the post as we speak, so hopefully next episode we'll have some Japanese sweets. Cool. I think it's time for us to find out what's off your needles.
Oh, cool.
And we both have things off our needles.
Well, we do.
How unbelievably exciting.
Do you want to go first?
No, you go first.
And this is a pair of socks in Life in the Long Grass. Oh, the colour looks lovely on there. That is very true to life. It's Life in the Long Grass in the turf colourway, and I've held it doubled. So it's effectively like a DK, I would think, or a DK worsted. And I cast on 48 stitches. I knit the first one completely normally with the usual heel flap and heel turn. But then this one, I decided I might, because I'd just knit that garter stitch short row heel, I thought, I wonder what it would look like if I knit a heel flap and a heel turn in garter stitch. I thought, well, I'll just try it on this one. And I think it's quite nice. I quite like that. You know, these are just house socks anyway, so it doesn't matter that one's different to the other. And I thought it's a good way of just trying it. And I think it's really nice. It's very squishy. It was really, you know, all I did was I just substituted knit stitches, obviously, for where you would normally purl. I just knit everything. And I think it's really nice. So I enjoyed doing that. I do quite like doing things, you know, that are a little bit different. I think it re-energised this project, because I just thought, oh yeah, I'll do that and try it and see what it looks like. So, and I did notice, again, I knit these to my normal 48 stitch sort of formula for number of rows and everything, and I tried them on and they're fine, they do fit, but they're definitely more snug than my usual 48 stitch sock. So again, that's reflecting my gauge, but they're okay. They do fit, and they're, you know, they're all right. Lovely.
Cool. Can I show mine now?
I'm going to put them on the blocker.
That's excellent. So this is my first pair of socks for the summer of Socks Cow, and I really enjoyed knitting these. I learned an awful lot. The first sock had a few issues. Second sock, after Kay's Anatomy of a Sock video, which we did for patrons, that really helped me with my understanding of what I was doing and knowing when I'm right and knowing when I'm going wrong. That was the key thing for me. I didn't know, you know, the amount of stitches I should be picking up on the heel, and also how long the heel should be, and all those different things. I didn't understand the reason why they were the sizes that they were, and now I do. So that has helped me massively, and I'm really hoping that this next pair, which I showed you before, is going to be much, much easier. Definitely repetition is a really good thing to do, I think, when you're trying to nail something.
I think so.
Unless it's double knitting. There are the Opal Winter Mond first pair of socks, my summer sock cow.
I think there's a loose stitch there, but don't worry. And I think that was Winter Solstice, that colourway.
Isn't that interesting that loose stitch is?
Yeah, I know. It's always, one side's always worse than the other. It's the same with me.
It's just funny that it looks like it's coming out of that hole on the second sock.
I've changed the way that I pick up that last stitch, and maybe I'll show you that next time.
Well, that would be nice.
Well, yes, darling, but I know you don't like change, and you like to do things exactly as you normally do them.
I don't like change. I don't mind change. When I understand it, I don't mind change. Right. So there we go. It's time, before we do the endy bits,
yes,
it's time to find out what was the next step in the Bakery Bears Lego journey.
Oh, right. Woohoo! Cool, I'll just sit in it for a minute then.
Here it is. And I'm super excited to show this one. Which is this one, Mummy?
Slave 1.
Oh, look at that. Isn't that impressive? That's the reason why I'm married.
There you go.
So this was the first, and there's a few different bounty hunter ships which we have got over the years. But this was the next one that Kay got me, and I absolutely love this ship. It's by far the best one for playing with, and the reason for that is, as we've established on the other videos, the brilliant thing about this is I can pick this up and I can hold it in multiple places.
It's very robust, isn't it, compared to the other ones?
And the reason why it's robust is they've used an awful lot of these smooth covering pieces, which means you're limited with the bits that you know can get caught and can get pulled and then drop off, which is really great. Because it's so easy to pick up, and also because it's such an iconic ship, and as you can see in there, you've got Boba Fett sat in his little seat. We've got a few Boba Fetts actually, which is cool because he's by far my favourite of all the characters. You also have in here, and actually I remember the first exposure I had to this was I went to my brother's, me and Bryony were playing with my brother's son, my nephew's Lego set. And do you remember Bryony stole?
She did. She was only about 3. She was only little, and she came away and she got it out of her pocket. So I posted it back to him. It was all fine.
It's Han in carbonite.
She must have just thought, that's lovely, I'm popping that in my pocket.
Here he is. And that, it was playing with that set then, and also Bryony enjoying playing with it, that really ignited it as an activity which we could do together and enjoy playing with together. I would highly recommend this ship. They have brought out a UCS model of it, which I didn't get. And the reason why I didn't get it is this one is so good. You know, why would you need an Ultimate Collectors when, you know, they've done such a good job on this one? So it is Slave 1. You get Boba Fett, who's in there. You get Han Solo, who I've shown you in there. And yeah, it's a brilliant set, so I would strongly recommend it. And that was the next step in our Lego journey.
Brilliant.
It's time for the Endy bits.
Okay. I've only purchased 2 things. I bought the Riot yarn, which you've already seen, and at the same time actually that I bought that, I always have a little look at the opal yarns just to see if there's any that take my fancy, or older yarns that I've missed, and you know, that kind of thing. And I saw this one, I thought, oh, I quite like that, and I'd like to knit down some socks in that. So I got this one. It's the opal. It's Chaff Pate. Is that how you would say that?
Yeah.
6. And the colourway, the translation, again, I've looked this up, and I think the colourway translation is Lucky Charm, something along those lines. It's Glücksbringer. Does that mean Lucky Charm or something along those lines? So it's that colourway. I just thought this was really nice, sort of manly colour. And I really like the sort of muted tones to it. Quite autumnal, isn't it? So maybe I'll save it for the autumn. So I've got that one. The other thing, we didn't have time to show this on the last podcast, but lovely Ashley, who sent us the chocolates, she actually sent us this, this amazing package, and it had loads of hand spun yarn in it. One of them she wanted us to use on the podcast as a giveaway. Now this hand spun is just unbelievable. It's Blue Moon Fibre Arts. It is. 100% Polworth again. Polworth. It's 8.1 ounces. 8.1 ounces. Are you absorbing all this? Because I just think it's amazing. So it's a 2-ply, you've got 314 yards of approximately an Aran weight. And the colourway is Awesome Sauce. I'm beyond words, really. Here it is. We need to just have a moment, I think, don't we? Because look at that. Is that not fabulous? You know.
When I look at that, that makes me think of the type of clothes that people would have worn in medieval times, knitted up.
Oh gosh, Ashley, it's just absolutely
those colours.
Beautiful. It's just beautiful.
It's like an amazing dress that maybe Mary Queen of Scots would have worn.
It's just
maybe she sat
gorgeous.
knitting in her bedroom.
And she's got a shop. It's Red Stick Fibres, where she sells her hand spun yarn. This one, she even tells you what spinning wheel she spun it on, and she spun it on a Kromsky Symphony. So, and her shop is redstickfibres.etsy.com. So go and have a look, because honestly, it's just beautiful.
But this is a prize for the Summer of Socks Cal.
It is. This is just such an awesome thing.
Is it a prize for the Summer of Socks?
It is,
right.
But what I thought I'd use this for is the person who has the highest stat.
So just send it to Sarah Hepworth now.
Sarah.
Sarah, it's on the way.
Oh, lovely Sarah.
Come on, people. This is your chance.
So look what
Can
you
you
could
defeat?
win. Would you, just imagine. What I would do with this is I would knit a huge winter shawl.
So this is down to stack size, yes?
Yes. This is
so
a stack,
start showing.
Stack size winner. This is your. I mean, it's just amazing. Really, really is. And then not only did she send that one, she sent one for each of us. So
is that my one?
No, that's yours. You wanting it with? Well, you can. That's mine. It's sparkly. Don't be mean.
Okay, what can I knit with this?
Well, anything you want. Dan's got.
Well, that's not true.
This
Because
was,
I'll say something and it'll be wrong.
Well, this was spun on her shacked reeves, and is 85% pole width.
Yes, okay.
15% silk, 4.3 ounces. You've got 235 yards of a heavy worsted or DK. It's perfect for you.
To knit
So
what?
hats,
Socks.
cowls. You could knit socks because it's got 15% silk. And Dan's is the fourth
I'm knitting
dot.
socks.
The fourth Doctor's scarf. Look,
These will be socks.
look. It's a 3-ply. She's chain plied it. This is beyond perfect for socks. It's a 3-ply.
Well, I'm knitting socks with it.
That would be amazing.
There you
Shouldn't socks for yourself? There'd be plenty. So that's Dan's. Isn't that amazing? And then she sent me. This was done on her Kromsky. This is AJ's Handmade Creations, is the fibre. I've got 84% merino, 16% silver stellina. Gosh, that's a lot, isn't it? It's very sparkly. 174 yards. This is a 2-ply and it's about an Aran weight. And it's called Raspberry Truffle.
And it does look like a raspberry
It does.
truffle.
Can you see all the sparkle? Look, look, look. Just fabulous. Actually, we couldn't believe it when we opened it, could we? And I opened it and went, it's loads of hand spun.
So that's like a superstar prize then for the Summer of Socks Camp.
I think that's an absolutely amazing and completely overly generous. You know, I know the amount of time that this would have taken Ashley to spin it, so thank you so much.
So share your stacks of socks.
Yes.
Also come and share your socks in. It's actually, I mean, it's pretty darn busy, isn't it? In the
Over 250 finished pairs of socks.
and I mean, how far through are we now? Are we even halfway? No, it's June.
No, it's
July,
June,
August.
isn't it?
This
We've
is
still
gonna
got
be
all of July, all of August.
Come on. So your stacks.
Can you imagine
I expect
if there was
to see stacks
1,000?
falling about. Wow.
Well, there might be.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
We should
wouldn't
go
it?
for 2016.
Oh, stop it! That's not.
Get excited about the hunt for Harry Potter. Starting not next episode but the episode after, because next episode is the start of the grand final of the journey that we began this time last year with Knit or Forfeit.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
Oh,
So questions will be our specialist subject is musical theatre, cooking, medieval history, and Downton Abbey. So we will each get asked one question of each, and those questions are come up with by the appropriate contestants. Our scores have been tallied. Kay is in the front. We have 2 rounds to play each other. We will be playing one of the rounds when we're away in the piggery,
All right.
which will be fun, so we can film with the pigs.
There's no pigs there now.
So this summer is all about the grand final of Knit or Forfeit between Kay and I. The gloves are off, and the hunt for Harry Potter. Summer starts now. Doesn't it?
Yesterday, actually.
Yes.
But yeah.
What are your memories of summer, actually?
My memories of summer.
Yeah.
I suppose my most vivid memories, we used to, there was 5 of us growing up, we never had any money really, but we used to go to my Uncle Henry, who sadly is no longer with us. He was lovely. He had a caravan, a static caravan in Inglemells, which is near Skegness, if anybody knows that area. It's on the east coast, and we used to go there in the summer to the caravan, but this is before the time of indoor anything, and there was no toilet in the caravan, and I just have memories of us, if we needed a wee in the night, we used to just wee in a bucket. And then there was like a little sort of river behind the campsite, and we were right at the back of it, so we were near the river, and my dad used to take the bucket in the morning and throw it in the river.
Wasn't there a toilet block?
Yes, there was a toilet block, but you're not going to do that as a young child in the middle of the night, are you?
No, I just thought you might have pulled the bucket down the toilet.
Well, no, you know what my dad was like. He would just throw it in the river. And I remember we had a dog growing up. She was the loveliest dog. She was called Nell. She obviously came with us, and I remember we once went out for the day and we left her in the caravan. We left the windows open, obviously, for her, but she jumped out of one of the windows and came chasing after us because we'd left her.
It's like the incredible journey.
I know, she was lovely. She was 21 when she died.
Gosh.
Now I know.
Gosh. And it's funny because my memories of summer are sort of the same because we used to go camping as well. So it was a caravan. I remember a Monza caravan, but before that, I remember it was a VW camper van.
Right.
And my memory actually of that VW camper van is of 2 pull-out beds that were in the awning that you pushed up, not the awning, the thing at the top.
Yeah.
And you would get up there and sleep up there, and then my mum and dad would sleep below. And
I don't know how you all fit into one of them.
well, I think when I came along, it was more of a struggle.
Yeah.
So that I think that's when we started to have more caravans. But I remember that one of the pull-out beds stank of wee, and they could never get rid of the smell, and that's because either one of my brothers wet themselves in that bed.
Oh no.
But the really disgusting thing is, my mum and dad will have been asleep below,
Oh,
so they will have wet themselves, and my brother's wee will have then dropped
I'm sorry
onto.
for the toilet talk at the end. That's all a bit much, isn't it?
But it's
with
funny.
my buckets of wee and your...
Isn't it funny how our memories of summer are caravans and wee?
Yeah, it's very funny, isn't it? Yeah.
So summer has started. Summer of socks, summer of grand final of Knit or Forfeit, and the summer of the hunt for Harry Potter.
Yeah.
We'll see you next episode
See you in a fortnight.
for round 1 of the grand final. Thank you so much for watching.
Was it sitting and knitting? It's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places of which they're favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern, get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in